NFL season, and almost every team in the league has OTAs going right now. So get me Adam Schefter. 23 teams holding OTAs today, to be exact. Give me something you're keeping your eye on this offseason right now. Give me something everyone should be paying attention to.
The Cleveland Browns quarterback situation is really interesting right now, but the Cincinnati Bengals and their unresolved contract situation with Trey Hendrickson is such that this is a situation that's been going on for the better part of 2 off seasons. You have a player who led the NFL in sacks last year, Greeny, still has not been paid, still is not happy. Obviously, both sides want to work this out. And most teams have given away a lot of their salary cap space, so it's more difficult to make a trade. So it's almost as if Hendrickson and the Bengals are left to pick up the pieces and figure out how to resolve this when there's been no solution in sight and they have not been able to bridge their differences. We'll see if they can get that done here coming up in the coming days and weeks.
Let me get RC into the conversation this morning as well. Ryan Clark is up with us early today. RC, what about this strategy? They paid their receivers. They have the one guy who did anything for them defensively last year, sort of hanging in the wind. How does this work out for Cincinnati?
You know, it's really a crazy ordeal when you look at what's going on with their first-round draft pick, Shamar Stewart, as well. It seemed like the Cincinnati Bengals were getting out of that cheap Bengals sort of moniker, but they aren't. Trey Hendrickson has earned his money, and I'm not sure necessarily what they're haggling over, but this is a player that's a must-have for new defensive coordinator Al Golden if they want to move forward and compete with the tops of the AFC.
Give me another one, Schefter, you got your eye on. How about something involving Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah, the Miami Dolphins have been looking and open to dealing Jalen Ramsey, and there has been interest in him across the league. I think probably more than people realized, and it certainly sounds like in the next couple of weeks, the Dolphins will be able to find a trade partner for Jalen Ramsey, and he will be moving on yet again. Started in Jacksonville, went to the Rams, went to the Dolphins. He's about to find his 4th new team here in the coming weeks.
And then let me skip forward to the last one here in the interest of time, because I'm dying to hear what you have to tell me about the situation in Cleveland.
Well, Greeny, this is going to be the most interesting storyline all summer long, and they're in OTAs right now, so you know that that's going to be very interesting. We've got the 2 veterans in Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. We've got the 2 rookies in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And, of course, Deshaun Watson's been off to the side throwing, coming off another torn Achilles, 2 surgeries. He doesn't figure in the picture, but Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders certainly do. And there's not enough room for all the quarterbacks they currently have in their room. It's hard to imagine that they'd move off of Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. I think both players wind up making the roster. So then the question becomes, does Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett wind up winning the starting job? And which one winds up staying in Cleveland? Probably room for one veteran. There's the room right now. It's a little crowded. Deshaun Watson, I would think, would be an IR candidate with the 2 Achilles injuries, the 2 surgeries, and the other quarterbacks would be left to vie for the Browns starting quarterback job. We'll be talking about this all summer.
RC, to me, this is going to be the story of the summer and into the season. Do you believe we will see Shedeur Sanders start for the Cleveland Browns sometime next season?
You know what? I believe he will start at some point next season. I believe Kenny Pickett will be the front runner. We have to remember he was the 20th overall pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers a few years ago. But everything you're hearing out of Cleveland is how impressive Shedeur Sanders is. This is a guy we talked about as a possible first rounder, and I think he's showing that talent there, and the Cleveland Browns are desperate for a franchise guy.
All right, I have to get back to this. Let me take a quick break on that thought, but we're going to have much more on this. Away from the kickoff of the NFL season. It'll be the Cowboys and the Eagles on that Thursday night. So I have questions for Ryan Clark and Adam Schefter. Schefter, we start with you. Is Justin Fields finally going to be the answer at quarterback for the New York Jets?
Well, Greeny, he changes the complexion of this offense. And if we go back over the last 3 years via Hembo and look at the way that quarterbacks who run the football have affected offenses, Justin Fields, his team, his offense, has had the 2nd most rushing yards of any team other than Lamar Jackson. You're looking at the Jets running the football, playing tough defense, and trying to turn around their season behind number 7.
I am infinitely more optimistic than most Jet fans I hear from. RC, next up, is this the year Lamar Jackson finally wins that elusive championship?
You know what, Greeny, I can't answer that question. It's the year that Lamar Jackson has to win the championship. There's no more pressure on any player in this entire league to perform in the playoffs than there is Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter that you add DeAndre Hopkins. It doesn't matter that you go out and get Malachi Starks to be in the secondary in the first round. It's what does Lamar Jackson do in the most important moments. And what has happened is he's been the best player all season during the regular season and come up short in the playoffs. That can't happen if he wants to get a ring.
Absolutely. And then finally, Adam Schefter, I will come to you on the Steelers. How long? It's May 27th. Yeah. How long are they willing to wait for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Greeny, it's May 27th, and their first game is not till September 7th,
right,
when they play the New York Jets. So I would say they're willing to wait until September 7th. But the truth of the matter is the Steelers have a mandatory mini camp June 10th to the 12th. So if we're going to get an answer from Aaron Rodgers, and he certainly seemed to hint at that this past week at a public Q&A, I think we could hear something in the next couple of weeks about him coming back to Pittsburgh finally.
Yeah, if you've missed it, he's done two things that were sort of like dropping breadcrumbs, right? First, he was publicly throwing passes with DK Metcalf at UCLA not long ago, right? This is something that you choose to do randomly. And then this week, he was asked at this event, you know, a young woman asked him, could you ever play for the Bears? And he said, well, no, but I could see myself playing for a team that's visiting Chicago this year.
And he also said he couldn't see himself playing for New Orleans. So he ruled out the Saints. He kept alive the Steelers, and that's where we're at today.
Speaking of the Steelers, let's throw a take into the hot take time machine. Less than 2 weeks ago, Ryan Clark was on First Take, and he had some interesting thoughts about his legendary former coach.
I believe Mike Tomlin should coach in another organization. Mike Tomlin should be a fresh voice somewhere else, because I believe, as great as a coach he is, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, I believe his voice has run stale there. I believe he's allowed that team to reach the highest of heights they're going to reach unless they can get a top-tier quarterback.
So I'm trying to decipher what you're saying.
He needs to go have his Andy Reid Kansas City run.
I got you.
So we talked about that a lot the following day, RC. And look, there were a lot of analysts who. Why are you looking around? Why are you looking around like that?
I be forgetting what I say sometimes, Greeny.
Oh, okay.
I didn't remember that.
Okay.
But it's fine.
But in this particular case, like I might say that. A lot of other people, a lot of other analysts might say he's not appreciated enough. The fans don't appreciate him. The organization hasn't gotten him a quarterback. He needs a fresh start somewhere else. That doesn't mean anything. When you say it, and I'll remind the audience, if you are a very close person or you played for him and you remain very close to him, it feels different. It hits me differently when I hear you say it. Talk to me about that.
I mean, it hits me differently as well, Greeny. I mean, I think there's the personal piece of it, right? There's the personal piece of having fans continuously comment that he's underachieved and that they want another coach. And the personal part of me that's his friend says, go get one then. And tell me which one that you're going to find is better than him. And the other side of it is that since the last couple of years of Big Ben's tenure as the starting quarterback, this team hasn't been competing for a championship. This team hasn't been championship caliber, and they've continuously tried to find that guy. But think about some of the seasons they've had when you're talking about the regular seasons and then the playoff collapses. The fact that they've been down by 21 points in the last few playoff games. And I know he's a motivator. I know he's great with X's and O's. I know he's the type of coach that puts his experience and wisdom into a locker room. So are they overachieving during the season and underachieving in the playoffs? Right? Or are they not figuring out a way to win because they don't have that guy at quarterback? And it seems that this year is going to be the exact same thing.
It's pretty simple. When they had Ben Roethlisberger, we thought of the Steelers the same way we think of the Buffalo Bills now with Josh Allen, or the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Without Ben Roethlisberger, we're wondering if and when the Steelers can and will take the next step. We're waiting to see whether Aaron Rodgers can. They don't have the quarterback to compete with the big guns in the AFC that do have the quarterback. For years, the Pittsburgh Steelers had that guy. Now, welcome to the reality. Welcome to your world, Greeny, with the New York Jets. Welcome to what it's like when you don't have one of those elite quarterbacks. It is difficult to unseat those top teams. It almost can't be done unless you have a top guy.
And the Andy Reid comparison is an interesting one, a guy who had such success in one place. I'll remind everyone, Andy Reid went 4-12 the year that they fired him in Philadelphia. That's obviously not going to happen in Pittsburgh. So he would have to sort of make up his own mind.
The other piece of it is, too,
super quick, real quick.
Yeah, the other piece of it is this, too. Andy Reid was already a Hall of Fame caliber coach. He didn't become the coach, the Andy Reid, until he got Patrick Mahomes. So that's how important that position is. And Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have to figure that out.